Lions, Bill Watkins here. You can tell I'm no longer in Wyoming. I'm actually now down in Florida at our beach place here in Panama City Beach. I'm going to go show it to you. Actually, I'll go show it to you right now. So Don and I have a piece of investment property down here. Don has been coming here for 30 years, and she loves it here, and I love my wife. So here I come, and there goes my headset. Here I come in October, sometimes November, and see her get filled up with energy. So here we go. Yeah, how about that, huh? Way different than what I experienced in Wyoming. Let's see if I can find a good place to sit here. I'll come over here. So I want to talk to you about decision making today, and spend some time sharing with you my thoughts on making really difficult decisions amidst potentially amidst really difficult circumstances. So I was talking to a lion today. He's in an extremely challenging personal situation. It's really ugly, and he's got to make some decisions. And in some ways, he's frozen in place, not productive at all. I was there in the same situation that he is right now. I was there 7 years ago, and I remember how really difficult it was. And yeah, sorry, keep dropping my little mic here. Don't like that. Don't like these mics, but I don't have my setup that I have in Wyoming. So I remembered my situation, and I remembered what I learned from it, and I want to share that with you. So this is for those of you who are making a difficult business decision. I'm making one now, which I'll share with you at the end. But difficult decisions amidst difficult circumstances. The decision I'm making isn't necessarily difficult circumstances, but the consequences are high. So difficult circumstances, usually we lose our objectivity. And I remember when I was being trained for combat at West Point, I remember that combat training in the Army, and I remembered that as a young officer, I was always told to listen to and carefully consider the advice of my non-commissioned officers, my NCOs, senior non-coms, oftentimes who had been in combat before, who were seeing things through their eyes, through their expertise filters. And so here's my number one guidance: get expert help, get objective help. Those are two potentially different people. Now, back in the day, I was dealing with a difficult legal issue, and so I had to form a legal team. And I think I'm going to go inside. I love it here, but the shadowing is terrible, and you may not be able to hear me. So let me go inside. So I had to form a legal team, and this is what I want you to do if you're, of course, in a legal issue. But expert advice is what I'm looking for. I remember when I was developing my patents, I went out, I'd spent $250,000 practically, and I had finally quit doing it myself, and I went and found experts at Georgia Tech, UGA, Clemson, and University of North Carolina. And I got those patents done probably within 6, maybe 8 weeks of bringing my experts on board. Before that, I had muddled along myself as an engineer and a scientist. So number one, expert help. Number two, that expertise is probably objective, but sometimes you need just pure objective help. I remember back in 2009, 2010, when I was amidst this challenging personal situation, like the lion I was talking to today, I had great legal help, but I also had just objective help, just someone who was a pro, who was a great listener, who was schooled in listening, and they weren't experts in this particular situation that I was working with, but they just sat there and they listened. I trusted their processing power, and then they would reflect back to me. Now, both of those sets of people that you have on your team are objective, number one, and number two, they are bulldog batting for you. Now, they may not tell you the things that you want to hear, but you are going to tune your ears, like this headset plugged into my iPhone. You're going to tune in to what they tell you, because they're oftentimes, as in my case, they pointed out things that I did not see. My biases, my emotions, my experiences were blinding me to so-called reality. Of course, everybody thinks that what they're seeing is reality. But as we all know, policemen when they're investigating a crime or an accident or something, they're talking to as many people as they can, because out of those multiple inputs will come the so-called facts, will come the so-called reality. So you've got expertise. In my case, it was legal, it was science, it was engineering in different scenarios. And you also have maybe not an expert in that field, but you just have an objective person who is a great listener. Maybe it's I'm trying to think of a description. Maybe it's a mediator. Maybe it's who's a good listener in life? A counselor, a therapist is a great listener. That's what they're trained in, right? Intuition, listening, tuning in, and just having you investigate, why you have those opinions. So so expert help. In the case of me, I had two scenarios. One was legal, then way back in the early stages of the Morena Group, it was engineering and science. Today, this lion needed multiple experts. It was a business issue, but probably the quarterback of that team was going to be a lawyer. And then objective help could be a lawyer trained in mediation who's not representing you, but just there for you to talk and them to reflect back, or maybe it's a counselor or a therapist. There's another person or group of people that you need. I had that. My two best friends, Robert Mallon and Celso Fernandez, shout out to you guys. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Steve's listening in today. Steve, if you have any questions, just type them out in the comments section. I'll be happy to address them. People who have your back. And, great knights back in the day, great warriors, went to battle with a co-warrior who stood at his back. And that's because he can't see from behind. And so I remember when I started the Morena Group and I was working on the patents, I was all alone. It was just me. But I wasn't good at building friends back then. So, I didn't even think about that. But in the future, bouncing out 10 or 20 years, I developed deep friendships with Robert and Celso. And so when I went through some difficult times, particularly this time that I'm talking about, I had them there for me. And when I was going through some deep and dark moments, they were there to lift me up and pass me their power, pass me their energy. So three people, an expert, could be a legal expert, a listener, a reflective listener, someone who's going to mirror back to you where you are, and then just friends who are on your side. And they're going to shoot straight with you, but they want the best outcome for you, and that's the way that they're going to engage with you and support you. What else do you need, I think, in most major decisions? Well, if there's a significant other in your life, especially if it's a economic decision or a decision that would affect your family, your marriage, them, I always mandate to myself and to our clients that decision, whether your significant other is and knows anything about that, they're going to have some intuition, whatever that is. and they need to sign on with you to the adventure. Now, I'm going to talk about my situation right now, and I'm going to talk to you about Donna. And is there anything else? Yeah. Now, this isn't a person, but this is a mental attitude. And the mental attitude is this. I will prevail at the end of this decision, regardless of the outcome. Now, if you're making a life and death decision, maybe on the battlefield, for example, or like we did last summer when we were climbing, some of those decisions can be catastrophic and fatal. But it's rare that you're putting yourself in a position that's potentially catastrophic. So you need to have this core belief that no matter what happens, you will prevail. It will be okay. You are a man of power, of talent, of success. And so that means you're a man of pivot. And that means no matter whether you go down path A or path B, if you've so-called chosen wrong and you so-called fail, it's okay. Dude, you're good. How many times? I mean, I look at game films all the time in my decision making. Now, I do not live a life of regret, but I do live a life of learning. And so I have not always made the best decisions in my life. If I could have gone back and done it again, which I don't want to do, but if I could, I would have chosen A instead of choosing B. So totally, you won't always make the so-called right decision, but you will prevail. It will end up to be the fountain of your greatest success. I promise you. All the hardship, all the scars you see on lions, all the hardship you may have heard about in my life. Look at where I'm at. I have an awesome life. And I don't tell you that to impress you, but to impress upon you that I've made some crappy decisions. I recovered and I prevailed because I believed. And that's what you have to do. So that's number 5. And let me think here. Anything else? That's probably enough. Yeah. So I'm amidst this decision to join a mastermind group, Joe Polish's mastermind group, a new one that he's forming, 100K. It's $100,000 to write the check to join. Intimate group, small, 15, high-powered, high talent, high impact, high success participants that I'll be alongside. I'm going in with specific purposes. They're going in with equally specific purposes. I intend to 10x my business in the next 1, maybe 2 years. So 10 times the success that we've had so far, 10 times the revenue, 10 times the profits, 10 times the impact. And they're going in the same way. It's also a ton of money, right? Not many of us. I mean, I've done well financially in my life, but I don't lightly invest, 10 or 20 or $100,000 because I know what it can do in my investment portfolio, and I also know the cost of, making a bad economic decision. So, yeah, is $100,000 a lot of money? You bet. Is it a small amount of money if I'm going to 10x my impact and 10x our business? It's tiny. It means literally nothing. Do I know everybody that's in the group? Nope. Do I trust the 2 group leaders, Dean Graziosi and Joe Polish? You bet. Have they proven themselves in the past to be men of integrity, character, and commitment, meaning they're not starting this group on a whim, they're not starting it because they need money, they're starting it actually because they too want to have 15 people 10xing their business because then they 150 times their impact on the world? Yes, they have proven that. So I went through this process that I'm talking to you about. I talked to my wealth advisor. Hey, what if I spend this money and I don't get the return that I would get if it was just sitting and you were investing it for me? Got that feedback. Talked to, who else did I talk to? Talked to other people that have been in other masterminds with these 2 wonderfully talented guys. What else have I done? I talked to Robert, my business partner, who will share the cost with me. I've talked to Donna. Now, Donna doesn't spend that kind of money very lightly, and so she's not, one that is ever going to join a mastermind group like that, but she does know that it's meaningful to me. And here's how we ended it. She said, well, I'd say two things. What's the opportunity cost of spending that amount of money some other place or just leaving it in our portfolio? And number two, honey, if you go through this entire process, I trust your decision making and I bless it. So I have the green light from her. I've bounced it off of other friends that I trust, other close friends, and they've reflected back some meaningful advice, and I've talked to Joe and Dean pretty much at length. So this isn't a decision where it's bleak and dark moments that I have been in the past. It's not a decision with catastrophic outcomes, like when I'm out hanging on the edge of a mountain and have to decide, where do I put my gear, over here or over there. But hey, you can't look at that kind of money lightly, and it is reasonable to expect incredible returns on it for the investment of time and the economics. So that's the decision that I'm amidst. I'll be talking to Dean later today, and during that call, I will make a final decision. And I think that's the last point that I wanna emphasize to you. Difficult decisions to freeze people in place. The lion I was talking to today is a little frozen in place because he's living in hope. He's living in the belief that maybe the situation will resolve itself without making a difficult decision. And he's been hoping that for an awfully long time. Here's the thing. Lions who freeze on the savannah in a fight die. The other lion who takes